Today, I am joined by somebody who was part of this original Russia story, uncovering all of it, helping to diagram, map it all out, and expose it to the American people. Tony Shaffer, thank you so much for joining me today.
Stephen, it's always great to join you. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So let me give my audience some background, even though you've been on the show many times. Retired Colonel Tony Shaffer was behind the secret intelligence gathering operation that informed President Clinton and Bush of the Alkiada terror cells in America. His intel was ignored, and then we got 9/11. He also served as a whistleblower against the government. The government fought back, tried to destroy his life and career. Colonel Shaffer was also on the Trump transition team and informed General Michael Flynn that Obama and his thugs were going to try to take him and Donald Trump out. Colonel Shaffer, what are your thoughts on all of this information that Tulsi Gabbard has been leaking out? Because some of it is new to us, some of it is newly discovered, but you've been talking about this for over 8 years. Your thoughts on this, and then how did you start putting all the pieces together about Obama and the intelligence apparatus?
Great questions. Great. Thanks for having me. Full disclosure, I know Tulsi. Tulsi and I are friends. So I want everybody to understand that during the time I was in the transition team and that year, 2017 and 28, those 2 years, 2017, 2018, I was actually advising both Mike Pompeo, the director of CIA, and General Joe Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, as part of something called Team B, which I don't think we want to get into today, but we could always talk about that some other day. And how I figured it out was through good sources. I always have sources. I'm an intelligence officer, so I think some of my sources have been extraordinarily accurate, well placed, still in place. Just saying, they still tell me what's going on, and I think the reliability of these sources, plus knowing how things work at that level, allowed me to conclude accurately that, yeah, Obama was behind all of it. And regarding the warning to Mike Flynn, it wasn't just me who warned Mike. I think several of us, to include Catherine Herridge went and warned him, recognized that, and by the way, Mike Flynn told me this directly, that John Brennan, Jim Clapper had gotten together and basically told Mike, it's time for you to go. Basically, some little context. Mike had figured out that ISIS was real and they were going to cause trouble. They weren't the junior varsity as President Obama had portrayed them. And he said that in front of Congress, saying, yeah, ISIS is a real threat. Well, that went against the intelligence community sensibilities, and they told Mike to retire, which he did. Well, I told Mike, basically, you're coming back to be in charge as National Security Agency, NSA, as the National Security Advisor. They're not going to let you do it. They're going to come after you. And I warned him directly. And he, I'll leave it to Mike to defend himself on what he, on his view. He felt, I'm not going to worry about it. It is what it is. So the rest is history. And I think Tulsi was informed very in great detail in 2017, 2018, because a lot of folks were talking to include me. And I think she recognized then that something was really wrong. And I don't know if this is public. I think it is. She was talking to President Trump during that time as well. So her transition from being a Democrat to who she is now, I think started right after the 2016 election. I think she started recognizing that all things were not equal, and that maybe she ought to rethink the side she's on, which she has. So I think it's important to note that she started, this wasn't an overnight, like, oh, I just decided to wake up one day and be a Republican and try to declassify everything. Her actions now were informed by people talking to her, by her own gaining of self-awareness during this time. So I think what she's doing is very important. And one other thing before I stop, John Solomon's been on top of this from day one. John has been the one source. He started off over at the Hill. the Hill tried to dispute a great deal of his reporting, which resulted in John going independent, which, he's doing well at Just the News. But it hasn't been an easy road for John either, because he and a handful of others, such as myself, never bought into the Russia collusion narrative, not once. And because of that, we all suffered great criticism during those times. But here we are, 8 years later, and we're right.
Yeah. The truth finally worked its way to the system, or to the surface. Speaking of John Solomon, he put out a report that the Trump legal team has actually come up with a strategy on how to go after Obama, because many people are worried, with presidential immunity, they're now going to use that immunity against.
I know President Trump has every right to be frustrated with him. I think President Trump's analysis last week was right. I think my immunity rule might protect him on the original charges. That's what most legal experts tell me, that ruling is so sweeping, it will protect Obama for what he did in office. However, Barack Obama can now be summoned before a grand jury. He cannot take the Fifth Amendment because he has immunity from prosecution. He'll have to tell the truth. If he lies as a private citizen about what he did as president, he'll no longer have that immunity. And that is a trap that Obama is sitting potentially facing. And I want to say the irony to that, because on January 5th, 2017, he presided over a meeting in the White House where the FBI had just cleared Mike Flynn of any wrongdoing. And they schemed in that meeting how they might be able to jam up Mike Flynn. And they came up with the idea, we'll lure him into an interview, catch him into a lie, and then prosecute him that way. Barack Obama now is about to face a potential similar situation as the one he created unfairly for Mike Flynn.
All right. Your thoughts on this presidential immunity might not be the safety blanket Obama thinks. They might use it against him he might get away with it, but at least he'll be forced to purge himself and get all that truth out.
Yeah, I think it's a win either way. Regarding the process crime, that's what they got Mike Flynn on. Basically, a happy to glad, when did you stop beating your wife kind of question. And I think they can do the same thing with Obama. Now, one thing I've been told by certain legal scholars, which John didn't include there, but I think is still viable, is impeachment. You can still be impeached, which is a political action, not a legal action, even after you leave office. I mean, there was contemplation of going after Joe Biden when he was vice president before he decided to run for office regarding a potential impeachment. So either way, my belief is this. There must be a full and complete and detailed investigation of Barack Obama, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, James Clapper, Jim Comey, and John Brennan, and probably Joe Biden too, because Joe was in a room for all these decisions, and lay it all out, get it to a grand jury, and then start calling people in like Obama, get him on the record. I think, to be honest with you, Obama is so arrogant. I think he's probably just going to think he can lie his way through it. There's a great kind of funny video out there where someone took AI and put Barack Obama's face on the Jack Nicholson character in A Few Good Men. I don't know if you've seen that. It's great. And in that video, that basically Tulsi Gabbard plays the Tom Cruise part of questioning, which is great. They basically take the script and switch it out one for one. And in that clip, Barack Obama admits that he did it all, and I think he's gonna get up there and be so arrogant he's going to let it all out. And I think at a minimum, James Clapper, Jim Comey, and Brennan, and Susan Rice, and Valerie Jarrett should all go to jail for some level of sedition. I think this is closer to treason. But I'm not a lawyer, but I do know, based on my being an investigator, I used to be a counterintelligence special agent. This does meet the definition of sedition. And so we, Army counterintelligence, used to investigate sedition. This is sedition at minimum. So,
okay. Top lawyer David Schoen said this week that they could impeach Barack Obama because Democrats set the precedent by impeaching Trump after he had left office.
Absolutely.
We could also do this down in Florida because Democrats did this precedence of taking it out of Washington, D.C. So
Right.
I think that there's something there. And that's the exact charge that this top lawyer said is we do sedition to commit sedition conspiracy where he conspired to do sedition. Now, I believe that they probably need to drop treason because treason involves hanging someone in the public square. But if they can just stick with conspiracy and sedition, they could say, well, you're going to go to jail just like you tried to get Donald Trump to go to jail, right? So again, sticking with that precedence, I believe is the best way to move forward. But all of those people, I think could definitely be brought in. I keep telling people as they ask me, I think they're for sure going to get John Brennan and James Comey and Clapper. But these women that you mentioned, Susan Rice, and who was the other one?
Valerie Jarrett, special
Valerie
assistant to
Jarrett.
the president. Yeah.
Okay. So were they in on the meeting, or why do you bring their names
Susan
up?
Rice, absolutely. She was a national security advisor, and she did a memo on 7 January about the time frame of the meeting you just mentioned earlier regarding where they decided to go after Mike Flynn. She was there in the room. She was the coordinator of all this stuff, to include and this memo, the 7 January memo. Your audience can Google it and find it. Basically said, we did everything by the book. It's like, okay, the moment you have to do a memo to yourself saying, I did everything by the book, yeah, it's probably not true. So she was, I think, the coordinator of all of these activities, to include doing probably the very specific directive memos to the different departments to take action against Mike Flynn. And she was part of the unmasking as well. So she was right in the thick of it.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So two things came out this week that were interesting. 59% of Democrats now believe the government was behind the January 6th Capitol breach. I thought that was really interesting. And now, according to Rasmussen polling, 70% of Americans believe somebody in the Obama administration needs to be arrested and go to jail. I thought that was really interesting. Let me pull this up and we'll watch it together.
Sure.
Ultimately, I think it comes down to people want arrests. We don't have a question about arrests for Epstein, but we do should officials who are involved in manipulating intelligence to get Trump be criminally prosecuted. 57% yes, 26% no. And then these are previews from a question we're in the field with now. This is getting back to the Obama stuff. Agree or disagree with this statement about the manipulation of intelligence in the Obama administration? Accountability has to take place. It is critical for the survival of our country that people who perpetrated such crimes are held accountable. Talking about Crossfire Hurricane, that's a Mike Flynn quote. 48% strongly agree, 20% somewhat agree. That's a 70% number. And that gets back to the 30% trust the federal government. 70% want this system fixed.
All right, 70% want somebody held accountable in order for us to continue forward as a country. Your thoughts on that? As we age, the signs start showing more aches and pains, thinning hair, wrinkles, and brittle nails. It's frustrating, but we don't have to accept it. Let me tell you about Revive by Brightcore Nutrition, a powerful supplement designed to restore what time is taking away. Revive helps strengthen your joints and bones so you can move easier and feel better. But it doesn't stop there. It also works from the inside out to rejuvenate your skin, thicken your hair, and strengthen brittle nails. It contains 5 types of collagen, plus hyaluronic acid, biotin, and vitamin C, a powerful combination that helps you look and feel younger than you have in years. It's easy to use. Just a scoop of it into water or coffee or hot chocolate. It dissolves fast with no weird taste. And the result? They're real. Now, I love the strawberry lemonade flavor. If you want to reduce aches, restore your glow, and feel confident again, give Revive a try today. I've got a special offer for you. Do the code Gardner at the link below or use the QR code and get 25% off. Or go get a better deal. Make a quick phone call to 888-908-4425. They're professional. They speak English. They're right here in the United States. They will take care of you, and you get up to 50% off and free shipping. So go take care of your health and get that discount. Go check it out right now.
Well, first off, kudos to Mark Mitchell. Mark and I are friends, and he does an amazing job of honest polls at Rasmussen. So God bless him for continuing to do good work. I tend to believe what he's saying is absolutely correct. I think most people on both sides of the political aisle are pretty fed up with this. And I think a number of folks on the left are recognizing that their side is dirty and that it needs to be fixed. I have some Democrat friends who are kind of recognizing that their side is not the good guys here. So I think that there's going to be wide public support for something to happen. And I do believe the low-hanging fruit is Brennan, Comey, and Clapper. Easy. I'd say Clapper alone has made false official statements and false sworn statements in front of Congress multiple times. I mean, probably by my count, conservatively 6 times they could get him. And then Comey is, I think, said things in the media that could be used to prosecute him regarding some of the things, you know, that was mentioned regarding Mike Flynn being set up. Comey had to consciously lay that trap. That was clearly meant to have the effect it did of putting Mike Flynn in jail. And then, of course, John Brennan, who lied multiple times in front of Congress and in public regarding the Steele dossier. Now everybody knows that they were using the Steele dossier pretty much for everything. And quickly on that note, as a senior intelligence officer who's been working at the level we're talking to, include having to go to the White House to brief, you never take opposition research or anything that you don't have 100% assurance of the sourcing and use it for any operational planning. It's just not done. And I said this at the time. It's like, and by the way, Stephen, that's another thing that drew me to the conclusion that there's nothing here. The moment I heard they were using third-party sources, the Steele dossier, to drive intelligence collections, like, this is not valid. There's something really wrong. And we've now recognized that there was a political decision, seditious decision, to use this information to drive intelligence collection, which, by the way, resulted in no new information to support Donald Trump being controlled by Putin. That's notable. So I think the bottom line is the polls are correct. And I think most Americans, regardless of party, want arrests in this issue.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Colonel.
Sure.
If they're able to get Susan Rice, Jarrett, Clapper, Comey, Brennan,
yeah,
and they actually get them on charges, and these men and women go, oh, wait a minute, there's no Biden coming down the pipeline that can cover us. There's no Hillary Clinton coming down the pipe. There's no good candidate running for president in 2028. Do you think at that point they sing and they open up and they reveal Obama?
Oh, yeah. So that's one of the things I've said along from the beginning. These people never acted independently, Stephen. These are not courageous people. I know Jim Clapper. Jim Clapper is not a courageous man. He is a political animal. So these people have always acted politically. They are denizens of the deep state. They are swamp creatures, and swamp creatures are not known for courage. They will go with the flow, literally. So if that flow is essentially down the toilet, well, they're going to say, I'm not going down the toilet. He is. And I think you're going to see a lot of dirt go flying. And it's always, I've never been in the situation, but I'm telling you right now that there's a saying out there, whoever sings first gets the best deal. So I think whoever gets arrested first, they're going to be the ones that probably get offered the best deal. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, if those 5 are arrested and they say the first one of you that gives up the truth and can prove it gets immunity, I think they all start talking. Right now they feel like, oh, MSNBC will still put me on camera. I'm probably safe. Oh, they're saying they can't go after Obama. I'm probably safe. But there's nobody coming that can cover them. And just while we're on the topic, Colonel, what are your thoughts on pulling Adam Schiff into this? Because I've talked to a lot of people that were deceived specifically by Adam Schiff, including myself.
Yeah. So I never believed Schiff from day one. Again, my sources were telling me there's nothing there. I trusted them. They were correct. And regarding Schiff, now what Schiff has, which is shaky, is the auto pen signed immunity, the basically the proactive pardon. Now, first off, between you and me, Stephen, I don't know how a proactive pardon is even legal. How do you pardon someone when they've never been accused of a crime? I don't know how that works. I don't think it's legally sustainable. I think if you go push on it a little bit, it's like, yeah, you can't be pardoned for something that you haven't been charged with. I think that should be a something resolved in front of the Supreme Court. With that said, if you can get past the immunity, if you can get Biden to say, I didn't know Adam Schiff needed a pardon, something like that, I think he becomes a viable candidate for prosecution. Otherwise, it's difficult because technically speaking, that pardon covers him for his Russia collusion nonsense. And I think that's where it's going to be tough. But yeah, I think he's as guilty as others because he was amplifying the false information. And I know I saw Comey say this with Brett Baer in the Brett Baer interview. Basically, I think Brett Baer asked him, were you leaking? Were people leaking, putting it in the third person, were people leaking information? And Comey said, well, they technically weren't leaking because it was unclassified, referring to the Steele dossier, which is true. Technically, you're not leaking if you're amplifying fake information, but that becomes sedition, not leaking. So, apples and oranges, they're both valid. So you're not leaking, you're conducting acts of sedition. So I think that's where we have to really examine Schiff for sedition. And I think that's what they should get him on. And again, something that I think they should throw him in there on if they can go after him legally.
Yeah. Okay. Just going back to Mark Mitchell and this polling information. I recently interviewed Mark Mitchell. He's become a friend of mine as well. Great
guy. Yeah.
He told me in politics, there's rarely a 90-10 issue. It's usually 50-50, maybe 60-40. So I showed him that on my own channel, I ran a poll in light of the evidence that Obama was the mastermind. Should the DOJ prosecute? There you go. There's a 90-10. Yes. And it's long overdue. Now, what makes his polling a little bit better than mine is biased because I have a very incredible MAGA base, right? That watch my show. He calls independents, he calls Democrats, he calls Republicans, libertarians, and people that aren't affiliated. And of that pool, 70% said they want arrests and accountability. So I think that this is a much bigger issue than most of us realize. And I think that's why they're going to have to make a move on this.
I think so. And I think, I can't believe I haven't been following you, Stephen. I don't know what the hell I'm thinking of. I just followed you on X. I don't know why I haven't been following you. Be sure and follow me back. Anyway, I think it's beyond universal at this point. Again, I talk to people down here, both sides of the aisle as a county commissioner, and my Democrat colleagues are pretty fed up. I think part of it, they're embarrassed by how badly the national politicians have made their party look. They're pretty fed up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and I know I've had friends who are Democrats my entire life. I served in combat with Democrats. And I think they're all fed up. And when you get to the level of where you have a then sitting president with his senior cabinet decide, Constitution, no big deal. Yeah, will we destroy lives? Yeah, we will, but it's for a greater political cause. When you get to that level of deceit, I think everybody recognizes it. There's people need to go to jail, and I think everybody recognizes that this is as bad as it really appears. And by the way, the other thing I want to hit is that you, Newsmax, a handful of others, have been covering this story because of the importance it has. Most mainstream media still continues to say, like NBC and CBS, oh, they're just trying to rewrite the narrative. It's like, no. This is the truth. We knew it's the truth. And yet the left wing, well, the mainstream media continues to pretend that there's nothing to see here. By the way, they got all these Pulitzer Prizes, so I guess they don't want to give them up. So,
yeah. Speaking of like being embarrassed of the party, Benny Johnson has 4 million subscribers on YouTube. On the other side of the aisle, Brian Tyler Cohen has 4 million. He's the top political Democrat head right now. They both went on Chris Cuomo. Benny Johnson just dragged him through the mud because he said, so you're telling me you support Zohran Mamdani, who openly said, posted, and has on his political website that he wants to tax white people in order to pay for illegal immigrants and communist ideas. And Brian Tyler Cohen said, are you crazy? Like that you're making this up. And he's like, no. And then Chris Cuomo has to jump in and say, well, he's kind of right. He said he's going to go after white neighborhoods, not white people. Well, who lives in white neighborhoods? White people, right? And so then Brian Tyler Cohen has to admit, I didn't know that someone in my party was saying this. They don't even know how radical their party has become.
No, as a matter of fact, I was listening. I do Ed Henry's Wake Up Patriots Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. You've been on with us.
Yes.
And we were watching the whole flame out on the left of the Sweeney issue. That, oh my God, she's a hot chick and she's a Nazi. It's like, what? Where did that come from? And by the way, Stephen, for the record, I don't remember Adolf Hitler or Goebbels driving around in a '68 Mustang. I don't know how I missed that. Maybe I got to go back and recheck history. And by the way, did you know there's good whites and bad whites, according to the black folks who are upset about this? And I'm not joking. Now, can you imagine a white person getting up on a national platform saying, wow, there's some good blacks and there's some bad blacks? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I don't think the left understands, like, dude, you guys have gone way off to the left. You're not social democrats, you're Marxists, you're Soviets, because that's how extreme they've become. And what they talk about, the way they use class warfare, racial warfare as a predicate against others, it's scary, it's frightening. And I don't know what to make of it. I got to do a talk in September for the local Republican women's group. And Stephen, my talk's going to be about the nature of the left and their use of victimology and essentially the aspirational belief that they want to create problems so they can say they want to solve the problem and then create the context of chaos that they want to manage. They want to manage the chaos because it gives them political power. They don't want to resolve things. And so all these things they're doing, it's all creating chaos that they want to be involved in. And it's very dangerous to the fabric of our republic.
Yeah. I always find it interesting when Democrats say Republicans want to take us back to Jim Crow. Well, who started Jim Crow? It was the Democrats in the South,
right?
Yeah. But it's just all projection. This is a breaking story that just came out. Kash Patel says that they have found burn bags with thousands of classified documents. As they're digging in, they're realizing, oh, wait a minute. Somebody at the FBI hid thousands of documents that were in burn bags, but they didn't take them to be burned. Stuff from John Durham, stuff from Crossfire Hurricane, the Trump-Russia investigation. This is pretty crazy, right? That like all these documents are coming out. What do you think is in there? Just more stuff that Tulsi Gabbard is going to use to expose the deep state?
Well, yeah. So I used to have to do burn bag stuff because of the stuff we did. And some of the operations were so sensitive, we had to basically not put it in burn bags. We had to go destroy it directly because it was like we couldn't acknowledge that these things even existed. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff we're talking about, Stephen, I would consider collateral secret. That is to say, yeah, a secret, mostly because of the embarrassment factor, not because you don't want the bad guys to know. The bad guys probably knew more about this than we did, just saying. With that said, the reason this stuff was in bird bags is because it's sensitive to the fact that they departed from procedure, process, and regulations, probably the law, and that's why it was in the burn bag. And we're going to come to find that, hold on a second, that we're going to come to find that they violated multiple laws and their own internal procedures. And I'm going to go on the record here. Your audience can mark the date. Durham was a cover-up. Durham was never going to get to the truth. Durham's job, along with his colleague, Bill Barr, the Attorney General, was to essentially run the clock out, make sure that nobody really went to jail, and protect the actual infrastructure, the actual Department of Justice and the mechanisms within it. I think Durham and Barr recognized that Comey and company went too far. So that it wasn't about the fact that they went too far. It's like, oh, we need to protect the institution. So that's what their job was. So you were never going to get anything out of that. I think that's what we're going to come to find in these burn bags, that it was all a sham, that they purposely ran the clock out and didn't want to do anything.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that hung a lot of hope on the John Durham report. It's interesting. On the one hand, he didn't do much and he ran out the clock. On the other hand, you had this QAnon stuff that was like making him like the white knight on a.
I know. Well, I think the QAnon was the bad guy. I think the QAnon was a deception project on the other side. Remember, trust the plan. It's like, if you're trusting the plan, it means you don't have to do anything. I've always said, we're the plan. There's no plan. You got to act on your own. Just saying. So, yeah.
Well, if trust the plan was trust John Durham, and then John Durham runs out the clock and releases a nothing burger, it was a total distraction to hang everything on one guy.
Exactly.
Who knew that he was going to do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I used to do talks. I was down doing a talk in Texas, and I was up on stage, and this was probably 2018. 2019, I was actually doing a fundraiser to help Mike raise some money, Mike Flynn, for his defense at this event. And I got a question up on stage. It's like, when are we going to see these 10,000 indictments or whatever it was, the QAnon thing? It's like, it ain't happening. People got upset with me. Well, how can you say that? This is, QAnon is saying, it's like, look, I said, just on the face of it, it's beyond disbelief. I said, do you understand the scope of logistics and legal personnel you'll need to indict 10,000 people? Do you understand how much that would take? There's no way. They couldn't do 1,000 people, let alone 10,000 people. And I said, oh, by the way, there's no interest. There's no indication this is actually happening. There'd have to be target letters. There's a number of things that have to happen if they're being investigated. It's not happened. Boy, they were upset with me. I almost got thrown, but it was the truth. It's like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to reinforce this fictional belief that somehow Q is real and these indictments are coming. It's not going to happen. And I think that was part of the problem with 2018, 2019, going into 2020 is people really believe Q. It's like I always said, there's nothing there. There's something not right about that. And I think it's being born to be true. It was the bad guys doing it, not the good guys.
Yeah, I agree. Colonel Shaffer, thank you so much for taking
Sure.
time. I know you're between one show and the next and Newsmax and, your position there. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for fighting for the truth. I mean, you sent me a video where 8 years ago you were on Fox News saying exactly what Tulsi Gabbard has just released. Most of us are just catching up to what you were already onto. So thank you for sticking to that. If people want to follow you online, where is the best place for me to point them?
Yeah. Well, so one last point. Look, my oath of office, I don't think there's an expiration date. So I think, we are obligated to maintain that oath of office and tell the truth as best we can. But I'm on X with you. Now I'm following you. You can follow me on X. We're going to be monetizing my X account soon. We're working on some programs for folks to check out what I'm doing. Finally getting around to it. And then obviously Project Sentinel is the the group that I loosely run, since we're all kind of colleagues and just try to get things done, projectsentinel.com. Anyway, Stephen, I always enjoy our conversation. Thanks for having me. People always give me great feedback about what we talk about. So thanks for having me.
I appreciate that. Have a great rest of your day.